Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm Elizabeth Denham, publisher of the Franchise Woman magazine, and I'm here with Rebecca Monet, who is the chief scientist at Zoracle Profiles. How are you today, Rebecca?
I am fabulous. Happy Wednesday once again.
Yes, happy Wednesday. It's roses and thorns time.
Oh, I know. If you don't mind, give me your
Sure.
rose and thorn first as my brain is processing.
Yes. Well, I have an easy thorn because I had knee injections yesterday in both knees. And I get them every 6 months, and normally they do once a week for 3 weeks, so they spread it out a little bit. And this time they told me I was going to have to pay $113 per visit because I haven't met my deductible. So I called him back and said, can I just do it all at one time? Because he had told me that was an option. So they said, sure, do it that. Then it only cost me $113 once. So I went and did it yesterday, and I was fine. I thought, well, that wasn't too bad. I walked to my car, got home, walked around, got 9 o'clock last night, got on the couch and could barely get back up. And it only one knee swelled. It's my bad knee that had the surgery, and it is huge, and I can't bend it all the way or straighten it all the way, and I'm limping around like an old lady. So I'm hoping that it'll just take a day or two longer for it all to level off. But it's pretty thorny down in my left knee right now, and it's a little bit irritating. Aww. So I'm thinking next time I might go back to the 3 shots. So that's my thorn.
Hey,
my Go ahead. What?
No, I was going to say we were discussing this a few weeks back, and you couldn't decide whether 3 versus 1 was better. And it sounds like you may have your answer based on your reaction to this particular shot.
Yeah, it's never pleasant. It's always, as my youngest child likes to say, cringy. You feel a little full in your knees, like fluidy, which is unpleasant but not painful. This one is painful. So if it doesn't resolve in the next 24 to 48, then I'm going back to the 3. It's just not worth it. So that's the thorn. The rose this week, though, is tomorrow is my anniversary of 8 years with my husband and our blended family of 5 kids. So while we will be driving to help move our daughter tomorrow, we're excited to spend some time in the car, just the 2 of us, talking and getting back in each other's heads, because sometimes we're ships passing in the night. Work, kids, work. Sometimes you forget to talk to each other as much as you need to. So that's my rose for this week. What about you?
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. What is yours for the week?
So I think mine kind of blends. It actually happened today. So as you know, I broke my femur 5.5 months ago, and I don't seem to be healing like I would like. I'm in over the moon kind of pain. And I have this wonderful chiropractor who's also a neurologist, and he does a fabulous job. And I've known him for many years. In fact, when I was teaching at the naturopathic college for about 12 years, when I would go in and visit my chiropractor neurologist, he would frequently give me books to read and research studies that of course he participated in while he was in university, that I could share in a class that I was teaching, which at that time was psychoneuroendocrinology and neurology. And so we've always had this wonderful sort of a dialogue over the years. So today when I went in to see him, I'm sitting there and I'm like close to tears. And I said, Doc, I'm getting crabby. I'm getting crabby with this chronic pain. And he knows me well enough that it takes a bit to get me crabby. And then I jokingly, to kind of ease the tension a little bit, I said to him, thank goodness I don't live with anyone, because I'd probably bite their heads off, right? And so obviously I was expressing that particular thorn. Anyway, so I ended up getting my adjustment. He spends plenty of time with me to make sure I'm all fixed up by the time I leave. And I jump in a car and I'm driving home to come back to work, right? I'm working out of my home. And he calls me and he says, Rebecca, next time you come in, why don't you come in and we can have lunch together?
Oh.
And to me, that was a rose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was all of a sudden someone who's caring not just about your physical health, right? Which of course he's very concerned about, but he's also now concerned that I'm alone, which he obviously all these years didn't know
Huh.
that I was, that he realizes part of health and well-being is about more than just food and exercise and sleep and sunshine and all of those things, but some of it is truly having another human being care
Mm-hmm.
about you. So I thought it was very sweet that he picked up the phone and said, let's get you rescheduled where you can come in a little bit earlier and we can sit down and have a conversation and have lunch. So it's kind of this wonderful affirmation
Mm-hmm.
of there are good people out there that truly want what's best for you. And even though I was kind of crabby and ready to cry and unhappy, that whole time.
But still, I mean, it is nice when somebody reaches out or does something out of the kindness of their heart. I mean, it really does make you feel good. And did that improve your crappy mood?
It did.
Good.
It did.
So it works.
It works, but it highlighted something that you and I talk about often, which is this importance of community.
Mm-hmm.
With this quarantine, I'm extroverted. I'm just crazy off the chart extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
I need people. I need hugs. I need lunches and dinners
Mm-hmm.
and adventures with friends and colleagues. And all of us are kind of trapped right now.
Right.
And I think he recognized that. It was like this, he's known me for many, many years,
Mm-hmm.
that I am this crazy extrovert. And if I'm all of a sudden saying something about I'm feeling alone or I'm alone, even though I said it in a joking way, he picked up on it, that the part of this health issue may simply be because I am not getting my fair dose of conversations and hugs
Right.
and time
Yeah.
with friends and others.
It matters. It definitely matters.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Indeed.
Well, good one for the week.
Good one.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good rose. You had a good rose. I like it. All right. Well, we are going to wrap this one up, but we will be back next week with more roses and thorns. Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here with our guests for today. And Rebecca, why don't you tell us a little bit about Renee?
I'd love to tell you about Renee. So Renee is the Chief Franchise Officer for Modern Restaurant Concepts. It's a national multi-brand restaurant platform focused on better for you concepts. Currently, the portfolio includes 2 health-forward, fast casual brands, Modern Market Eatery, and of course, Lemonade Seasonal Cafeteria. So Renee is also the co-founder and former Chief Marketing Officer at Doc Popcorn, the world's largest franchise retailer of popcorn. She co-led the sale of the brand to Dippin' Dots in 2014, and then she stayed on as a member of Dippin' Dots senior leadership team until 2018. So as a brand builder and as a disruptor, Renee is passionate about using her unique ability to connect different unrelated ideas, concepts, and people to turn brand aspirations into reality. She enjoys advising or investing in emerging franchisors and suppliers serving our franchise community. So Renee, of course, has received many awards, including the Enterprise Woman of the Year Award from Enterprise Woman magazine, and she was nominated as Outstanding Woman Leader in Business by the Denver Business Journal. And then many of you know her as a member of the Women in Franchising Committee at the IFA. So welcome, Renee. We are so excited to have you.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I feel so honored.
Yeah, we hit pay dirt when we got you to agree to come on the shows.
You're so sweet.
Oh, is that a term people still use? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, some of us of a certain age remember what that means.
Yeah, and I'm of that age, obviously. So obviously we have so many wonderful questions for you because you have such a fascinating backdrop in your life. But I'm wondering if we could start personal, get personal here, because you've always been kind of spunky and feisty and fiery and kind of a leader in this small little package. What was kind of your first experience? I think you told me about a basketball situation where this spunky, fiery person came out. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I was growing up, I was always athletic. I'm still athletic. I've had many lives as an athlete, but my first one was as a basketball player. And when I tell people that, they kind of chuckle because I'm 5'2" and pretty diminutive, right? So I'm tiny but mighty, and so I just remember, feeling like I'm not enough, right? It starts early. I'm too little, I'm too this, I'm too that. But, very, very early on, I learned that, hard work and focus can get you pretty much anything. And I happen to have some of the athletic talent, but I really loved playing. And so I practiced a ton and just was always on the basketball court. And by the time I was in high school, I was on the 3 teams. I was on the freshman team, the JV team, and the varsity team.
Oh my goodness.
But in middle school, there was a situation where we were at a game, or we were a tournament, and I had the chicken pox and I couldn't play in the final game. But I worked really hard and I was a big part of getting us there. And so my mom went to the game and I had to stay home. I would have went if they let me, but obviously couldn't go. And they did an MVP award at the end of the game. And I was really surprised. My mother came home and she said, you won't believe who got MVP of the tournament. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, there's like 3 people I can think of because our team was pretty amazing. And she's like, you got MVP. You weren't even there in the final, but you got MVP because of, and it's like one of the only times that they had given out an MVP award and the person who won it wasn't in the final game. So, and I was like, oh, did they feel sorry for me because I had the chicken pox? And and I realized that, what, like, this is my sport. I worked really hard and I wasn't the one who scored the most points. I wasn't the tallest on the team, but I was the point guard. I'm the one who passes the ball, tells people where to be on the court, what plays to call. And so that was kind of my first real, leadership experience, like realizing that, oh, this is, you look back now and you're like, wow, that was my first real leadership experience, was being part of a team and not just being a leader, but being a team player and letting others shine. I didn't care if I scored. If I had a good pass and somebody else scored, I was good with that.
That's an excellent example of leadership right there, where you basically were forwarding the game, not by drawing attention to yourself, but calling the plays and highlighting those that were talented in particular areas. So that the focus was on the outcome, which is let's have fun, let's play as a team, let's win. That was the focus. And then your job was to sort of orchestrate it. It's, I see like a symphony leader, a conductor of sorts right there as a point guard on the field, on the court rather.
And you grow into that. I think sometimes, as women, we talk a lot about, am I good enough? Am I worthy? Am I in the right room? And what you realize is that I think life is more exciting when you reach a little. I think most leaders and people who are striving to be leaders are not comfortable all the time. You have to reach, you have to be, it's like brand aspiration. When you start a new company, you're not there yet, but you're not going to have a brand aspiration that's like, oh, maybe I'm going to be the largest popcorn company in the world. It's like, you know, we strive to create smiles, and we're going to do that every day. And at Modern Market, we're about, you know, making sure that there's accessible, affordable, convenient, scratch-made food, and we want that to be everywhere. And you have to aspire to where you want to go, and, you know, point the beacon in the direction and head that way.
Indeed.
Well, and what do you think, when we talked before, you talked about little package, big dream, a whole lot of work, which I think you talked about it in the reference to basketball. But in terms of how you've taken that into your professional life, how do you think that little quote applies? Because I think that, who would think that a 5'2" small little girl would think that she could play basketball and do it well? And so I think there's something inside of people sometimes who does that. I have one of my children always does things that make her uncomfortable, always. Like, her best quality is that she pushes herself outside of her comfort zones. And all of my kids don't have that same quality. And so the ones that don't, I try to inspire that feeling, like, try it anyway, push yourself. So tell us about how that has translated in other areas of your life.
Well, certainly, you know, from a business standpoint, you know, I think I didn't, when I met my husband, and he was always an entrepreneur, I was on a career track. I worked for Fortune 500s, and then I moved over to the agency side and did consulting, and all in marketing and all in branding. But when I met my husband, and he had the idea for Doc Popcorn, you know, it's like a big leap, right? You're stepping out of your job and your paycheck, and to move over to the dark side and go see if you can go make a dream happen. And if you told me I was going to be the popcorn queen, you know, when I was growing up, like, I want to be the popcorn queen, you know, that's not what I would have thought about. But it's about having the confidence, it's all what we hear all the time: taking the leap, having the confidence. And we tell our kids all the time, and I have to tell myself all the time, you know, I can do it. You know, now it's like, you're gonna rock this, I got it. But we had the I can do it monster for the kids when they were growing up, when they were like, oh, you know, I can't do it, or, you know, this is too hard. I'm like, no, the I can do it monster is watching you. Like, you can do this. And you have to bring that to yourself. You forget.
Yeah.
You know, you're so busy encouraging others. You have to, you know, encourage yourself too.
Yeah. I liked how you distinguished, though, that confidence is confidence in self. You know, building a business, we don't know for sure if it's going to be crazy successful, like Doc Popcorn was, but you had confidence in your own abilities and confidence in one another as you built this with your husband. And that confidence, I wonder, Elizabeth and I have pondered this a couple of times, if women tend to not have it in as large a dose as a man might have. Would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm sorry. So in terms of the dose of
self-confidence, this belief in self that I can do something, do you think there's any difference between the way a woman feels self-confidence or a man in that same kind of leadership role, or as an entrepreneur? Is it different? Is it something that we can develop, as an example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of it is positive self-talk. You have to have positive self-talk, because I think, and women more so, you know, I dare say, you know, we have a lot in our brain. It's like there's always something going on. Like, there's I can do it. And it's like, oh, but you're really not qualified. Why are you qualified? Why are you here? Why did they pick you?
Yeah.
And, you know, and there's always that kind of voice in my head. I'll speak for myself. You know, you can look at somebody's bio, right? Like, how many times do you read someone's bio and you're just like, wow, that person's amazing.
They're so impressive.
You know, but you know, but if you talk to that person, they're just another person like
Right.
you, and
Mm-hmm.
they too have the butterflies and the, and you know, are always, there's always a voice, and so you have to quiet the voice, and you have to put in the positive, glasses half full voice that enables you to go out and just, you know, fake it till you make it if you have to, you know,
Right.
just go out there and do it. And I think that that's harder for women. And when we do it, we're arrogant and stuck up.
Yeah. Perceived as arrogant and
it's
stuck up.
true.
Yeah. That's so funny. And I do think we talk a lot. Go ahead. I just say we do talk a lot to ourselves.
Yeah.
What's that?
We do talk to ourselves.
We do. And my
Time
sister,
to evolve.
yeah. But my sister read a study the other day that said, she goes, can you believe this? I read a study that said men can actually sit there and think about nothing. Like they can actually have a blank space in their brain. And she's like, if only I could do that. So I don't think I think the self-talk that they're missing is the self-criticism that we tend to put on ourselves, because we are trying to prove ourselves or improve our confidence or make sure that we're doing it right. And I don't even think it's self-criticism necessarily in a negative way, but it's how could we do this better? How could we do this more? What is what is our strategy? What is our path?
Right.
There's always something going on in there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
but
it's true. I think it also, because of that self-talk or self-doubt or confidence issue that we have, it is what causes us to learn more, strive harder, work to overcome that, which then increases our skills and our talents, and over time allows us to perform even better. So.
Yeah, no, there's a quote, Marianne Williamson, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, you know, who are you to be, you know, dazzling and talented? But the answer is, who are you not to be? Like, don't make yourself small to make other people feel comfortable. You have to be comfortable in yourself and enable to shine.
Yeah.
I still agree. So shifting gears a little bit, you talk about Doc Popcorn, and then you're in Modern Markets now. And when we talked to you before, you talked about struggling with the what's next after Doc Popcorn, which sort of leads from where we've been talking to where we want to go next in terms of how do you make that decision? How do you find that space? What drew you to Modern Markets in the first place?
Yeah, so Modern Market Eatery, like Doc Popcorn in a much grander way. I mean, Doc Popcorn was created to be a natural snack brand. It was in the early 2000s where you went to a mall or a stadium and you couldn't find anything to eat that was somewhat on a better for you, healthier scale, but still gave you the satisfaction, the smiles of having eaten something delicious. And so that was our mantra. And we did it because, you know, we knew that we wanted something good to eat. And so fast forward, I was, you know, really, you know, I'm an athlete and I love food and I'm a foodie. And I met the founder of Modern Market. I just knew him through, we live in Boulder. He's an athlete as well. And we just happened to be on some hikes and biking and skiing opportunities together. And I've watched the brand grow up, you know, for the last, you know, dozen years here in Boulder and beyond. And when I heard that he wanted to start franchising, I thought, wow, you know, what an amazing, to the point of when purpose and passion collide for me personally, it's a brand that's looking to put, you know, taking finer scratch made cooking techniques and making them so that they can be repeatable, consistent, and affordable, and making it easy for the operator and the guest to nourish their lives and their communities and eat well. And that is something that I'm super passionate about. It starts at home here. And if I could do that every day and help be part of bringing a brand like that beyond the markets that we're already in, and then help a franchisee who wants to expand into a healthier concept. I mean, that's just a win-win all around. And I was really excited because the food's amazing, and it's a go-to, and it had been a go-to for me already when I couldn't cook the scratch meal at home. It's like, you know, actually one of our taglines, you know, in stores, like, serve it as if you cooked it.
Yeah.
It's like, I can serve
That's
this at my
great.
table to my kids and feel really good about it. So that's kind of that passion and purpose for me. It just clicked.
Yeah. So I do like how the two come together, plus all your skills and talents and experiences all came together here. The foodie in you and your passion for healthy eating and preparing foods for your family, and here's Modern Market providing these incredible foods for our local markets, right?
Right.
So I guess the question I have for you, people are eating out more and more, and looking for healthier alternatives. But I personally, and maybe this is me, and tell me what you think about it, I really equate preparing food and giving it to my family as love. This is my way of showing love.
Absolutely. I completely hear you and agree with that. And in fact, I think one of the things I always think about is when my kids were babies, and you know, whoever, you know, is online who has kids knows this feeling. It's like, you know, from the day that they're born, it's all about, did they get enough to eat? Did they eat enough? Like, you know, they have enough, they want milk, you know, you gotta get the milk. And then it's like, oh, they really only want the apricots. Like, you felt like it was such a victory if you got them to eat the peas. And it wasn't about, like, and I learned how, and this is another application to life and business in general, you know, it's not about what you get done in a day. Like, anyone can have a bad day. But, like, think of it in terms of 3 days, even 5 days. It's that week. And so how do you look at it like, well, we didn't really get it done today, but the next day you did, and the next day after that you got a little more, and somehow it all balances out. And I feel that way today when my kids sit around the table. Like, tonight I'm making chicken parmesan. It's like one of their favorite meals, and I know that it's going to be a hit and everyone's going to eat. And then there's nights when I'm like, oh, I'm cooking the fish, and I'm like, oh, you know, gotta get them to eat the fish. But it's but I really take care. I'm a scratch cooker still, but when I can't, I have somewhere like Modern Market, and I don't feel like I'm compromising as much. But
yeah,
I like to make my food.
Yeah, it's I was born and raised in Europe, in a little town in Switzerland. And food was about community, and food was about relationship and family. And the parents took great pride in being able to provide fresh, healthy, tasty things. And it provided an opportunity for conversation and bonding and all of those things. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to connect. To build community, and of course to show love, that you care about someone's health and well-being.
We still, even my oldest is 14, and we eat around a table together most nights, because that's where all the magic happens, both nutrition and, you know, what are they actually up to, and having a conversation, and to your point, you know, bonding. So food is just, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much behind it. And it really is, it's life. I mean, for me, it's just such a big part. It's always like you eat breakfast and I'm already thinking about what's for lunch, what's for dinner. I plan out a whole week what everybody's eating. So
that's so funny. Well, it is, and it's beyond the nutrition, it's the community. And when our 5 kids were all home, we would try really hard, but, you know, with everybody playing a different sport and being in a different activity, sometimes it was hard. So those moments where we had all 7 of us together were really, and that's actually where I got the rose and thorns that Rebecca and I do at the start of the show. Is we used to do that with our kids, because when they were in the teenagey, I don't want to talk years, they had to tell us one rose
We
and
do
one
it.
thorn. And then we got a lot of questions that prompted more conversation, and then it goes out socially too into the world in terms of, I tell my kids, everybody in your life should look exactly like you. And so diversify your table, invite someone to dinner who's different from you so that you can learn something. So I think that there's so much to it. It is nutrition, but it's also that nourishing the relationships that you have or that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Indeed. So it's interesting because my perception of you, Renee, is that you are not just success driven, because you tend to go after something, all in wholeheartedly, but you're also a very disciplined person, both with your, as an athlete, and then with your nutrition and your health. And so talk to us about this disciplined side of you. Have you always been disciplined? Was it something you had to learn? Do you have any advice for those of us that are less so?
I think it's that nurture nature discussion. And I do think some people are just born with it. Like you can just tell when it's like, that didn't come from me, like whatever that is, right? That says, that person's driven. But I do believe that you can train yourself to be driven. And, there's a book, it's called The Way of the Warrior Kid. So again, moms, any age. And it's by a Navy SEAL. His name's Jocko Willink, I think, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the short story is that it's about a wimpy kid who's like the nephew of this Navy SEAL. And he can't do pull-ups, he can't do math, he complains all the time, he's not a sports kid. And his uncle's like, well, what do you mean you're not those things? You can be those things. What do you do to be those things? Have you practiced? So there was this whole thing about, well, I just want to do what I want to do. And this notion of freedom, like what's freedom? Because, well, if you tell me what to do and I have to do all these things every day, I have no freedom. And it's like, well, no, it's the opposite. And the whole moral of this book is that discipline equals freedom. So think about when you were in college, you had all the time in the world, you didn't think you did, but you did. I remember going to Thailand we didn't have, phones or, maps or anything. And it was like, I'm just going to wing it. Right. And you could do that and it's okay. But today, if you want your 1 week vacation or your 2-minute vacation, whatever you can actually do, you will miss so much if you don't have an agenda of some sort, right? If you wing it, some of it can be great and spontaneous and a lot comes out of that, but you need to have a goal. You need to know what you're doing and you need to manage by some level of objective and, how are you going to get there? And so I just think that's, you must have discipline and you must have something you're achieving, even if it takes little tiny steps to get there. It's just break it down.
Break it down.
Small steps.
Yeah. Well, and I think recognizing in the steps along the way, your small successes is an important thing. And when my children or even for me, if I get down in the dumps, like I've not accomplished the things that I want to accomplish, I have the 6-month rule. I look back 6 months ago, am I better off now than I was then? And it's almost always yes. It may be not as dramatic as you want it to be, but usually 6 months out, behind you, you're in better shape than you were. So then you can think, okay, I'm not the utter failure that I feel like right this second, So in terms of recognizing those small successes, how do you incorporate that kind of thing into your life?
Yeah, so it's funny. I haven't done it in a while, and it's reminding me that I need to do it myself, as I'm going to tell everybody else what I think is an amazing way to achieve this. So I used to have a jar on my desk, and it's like the celebration jar. And so, how you just you have a bad day, or maybe you feel like you just didn't get enough done. And I think it's hard if you have a massive to-do list and then you just look at your massive to-do list and you're like, oh, like I'm just never going to get there. And, the checklist is nice, but there's something really visceral about writing it down. So it might have been on your task list. When you take it off, you write it on a piece of paper, crumple it up, and put it in the jar. And make that bowl as big as you want or as small as you want. The idea is that it gets filled by the week. And, you know, take a moment to celebrate those moments that you actually did have achievements. So you go into the jar, you dump it out. It's like, wow, look at all this stuff. And then you start opening and you're like, wow, I did get that done this week. And I just really think that some of us just need, like with my kids, it was cotton balls when they were little. Like they filled the cotton, like when they did a good deed, we put cotton balls in the jar. And at the end, when it was full, they got something special. And so I think that we all deserve something special, but we're always thinking like the glass is half full and we didn't get it done. Because particularly with women, I feel like we always feel like we're not ever getting enough done, because to your point about men being able to have a blank space in their head, research also shows that we are multitaskers. We cannot compartmentalize. And I will just speak for myself. I know that we all kind of have traits on both sides of the feminine and masculine, but I cannot compartmentalize. My life is completely blended.
Yeah, it's like this.
And there's no balance. It's a pendulum. And I truly believe that. Like if you look for balance, you're going to be miserable. You just have to know that one day it's going to swing this way. And to the point of getting the baby to eat the food over 3 to 5 days, it balances out as a time frame, not like, you know, in a day or, you know, across, you know, the whole life. So
yeah, I've got a kid who's very, very concerned about work-life balance. He's actually dating one of my children. And he, I said, there's no such thing as balance. Get that out of your mind. It's about priorities to me. If your children know that you're going to be there for the important things, if they know that you're going to show up, you can work a 12-hour day and not be out of balance necessarily, because the next day you're going to a soccer game or a basketball game. So I think the word throws us off. Like everybody strives for this perfect balance. And to me, it's just having the people in your life know that they're an important priority. And when push comes to shove, you're going to be there. I mean, so that's kind of how I've tried to overcome that whole balance thing, because I've never actually felt that I had any.
Yeah.
So I've reframed it.
The visual. Good for you. I like the visual you gave, Renee, of the pendulum, because some of that is also kind of stage of life, right? When you're building an empire, you're building a business, that requires a whole lot of energy and focus. And when you're raising children, that requires a lot of focus. So I think a lot of it is stage of life. And at some point there is a pendulum that just comes back to center, whether we call that balance or whatever we call it. So what I find interesting about you is you're very outcome oriented. I think you mentioned.
I'm an achiever. Like on all your profiles, Rebecca, I'm an achiever.
You're an achiever, but the extra thing that's kind of cool about that is your big picture end result kind of individual, but you're also tactical, meaning you can take that big picture and break it down into smaller components, which becomes your to-do list or the process that you use. Not everybody can do that. They have aspirations and they have great old hairy bodacious goals, but they're not able to go, okay, here's where I'm going and here are the 17 steps for me to get there, and today I'm going to be disciplined to knock one of those out, or however it is. So this is a very unique talent that you have. And for those that don't possess that, would you recommend lists or accountability groups, or what would you recommend for those that are not able to go big picture and then tactical like you are able to do?
Yeah, there's a management style that's, you know, managing by objectives or managing by goals. There's all kinds of words for it today. But, you know, the idea is that, you know, depending on how far you want to go out, I mean, people still do the 5-year goal plan. I can go out that far, but I know that things change so rapidly. And you can always go back and revisit them. But, if you can put out that 5-year goal, it's awesome. But then I think for people that have a hard time breaking it down, that feels really big. So even if you can just go for a year and then break it down by quarter and then by month. And so, one of the disciplines, talks about having your rocks. It's like, these are my rocks for the month. And, you have them for the quarter, and then you break them down by month, and then you just check them off. And you know what? It's okay to be, somewhat audacious and somewhat, forward thinking. You know what? I might not achieve it. I need things that I can achieve, and I need my stretch ones, right? So there's always something that maybe I have to move into the next month because there's a million reasons why it didn't get done. And I don't beat myself up if I don't get every single thing done, because if I make it too easy, then I'm not moving the ball, pushing the rock as we, up the hill as fast as I want it to. So, and actually at Modern Market, the entire team, the entire company does this type of effort. So that's how we all move in the same direction. Like, we want to have 200 locations, and there's all kinds of ways to get there. There's corporate locations, there's the new franchising program that'll be part of that, there's licensing with airports and universities, but then you got to break all that down, and every single person has a role to play towards that big objective. And so that's how we do it. That's how I always did it.
Great advice. So it's having a very clear objective, making realistic calendars. In this case, you're suggesting a year. Break that into quarters and break it down into months, and then break it down into weeks. And then to exercise a certain discipline within that, and then also rewarding ourselves for accomplishing even some of the smaller goals, that cotton balls kind of idea, or the thing.
Well, I need that, and everyone needs that. Like, I could not have that discipline without it, because I am generally more bigger picture focused, and I have a lot of things going on all the time. So I have to be able to look at that and be like, oh, that thing that I just tried to go work on just because it looked more interesting, or it was the shiny new penny for the week, that's not on the list. And if it's not on the list, you have to recognize pretty quickly it's not on the list.
Right.
That's not to the goal for this month. So that has to go away.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great. Well, Renee, we are winding down our time here, but we want you to tell everyone how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in Modern Market and want to reach out.
Pretty simple. Renee at modernmarket.com is my email, and you can certainly go to modernmarket.com and look up our website and our delicious food. We're very Instagrammable. I have to say our food is absolutely beautiful. It is delicious. And we have franchising information there, and how you can order there if you're lucky enough to be in Arizona, Colorado, Texas, or a student in Notre Dame, or flying through DIA at Denver International Airport.
Nice.
You can order online and get everything you need, and we meet our guests wherever they are.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Renee. We really enjoyed it. This has been a great conversation about so many things in terms of successful business and successful life. So we really appreciate you coming on Passion and Purpose with us today.
It's so fun to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Renee.
Take care.
All right. See you soon.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right Fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome to Women in the Know. This is where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing, from franchise growth and to difficulties between franchisees and franchisors. Today's topic comes from the topic we've been having lately about grit and the elements of grit. And we talked and interviewed Renee Israel recently, and she talked about discipline and commitment. And that's something that we really think is an important element that she clearly has in spades. But talk to us some, Rebecca, about what that specific element of grit does for you in business.
As we talked about last week, there are 6 primary elements of grit, one of which is the one we're talking about today, which is commitment and self-discipline. I thought Renee Israel's points about some of us, I think, are more naturally self-disciplined and more focused and more committed. And others of us, we have to learn to build that particular muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But without it, we don't have grit. Without commitment and self-discipline, we flat out don't get where we need to go, right? Or at least not purposefully, we're not going to get there. So I thought it was very fascinating how for her, the discipline is in every area of her life,
Mm-hmm.
from her eating habits to her exercise and athleticism, to her business, to how she raises her children. Everything in her life has an objective, and then she backs it off into smaller components that are manageable. But she is highly disciplined, and she has a process for everything. And I think that really is an answer. Is there has to be some kind of objective and process in place for us to become more disciplined. But it brings up that whole topic, because I was thinking about this, and obviously having studied neurology and taught it for so many years, not everybody has that same level of willpower, let alone self-discipline. Because self-discipline is a form of willpower that says, I'm willing to delay this gratification. I'm willing to pass up this temptation, that shiny object, that chocolate cake, whatever it is.
Right.
I'm willing to pass that up because there's something better on the other side of that, or instead of that. And that willpower, that's a biggie, right?
Well, it is a biggie. And I think finding the motivation for that willpower, I'll tell you something funny is I taught dance for 30 years. And that included after I had my 3 boys 2 years apart. So I had my last one at 31, and I was still dancing on the stage until I was 37. And I tell you what, there's nothing more motivating to keep you disciplined with your health and fitness and your diet than wearing a tutu on a stage with 16-year-old girls when you're 35. I've never had more, motivation for discipline in my life, because the biggest size tutu they have is a medium. So that's it. That's the big girl on the stage.
Wow.
So once I quit dancing at 37, I have never found the same level of motivation for my diet and exercise as that dadgum tutu. Maybe I should go back to that. But I think that translates for all of us. It has to be something we really want, and I think that that drives the level of discipline that you have. How badly do you want to reach that goal? How much is it going to change your life? How passionate do you feel? I mean, it incorporates all of those other elements to get to that discipline, don't you think?
I think you're right, because to your point, we talked about passion and purpose being part of grit. So if you have just self-discipline and it's just, nose to the grindstone, if you don't have some purpose or passion behind it, like you had a passion for dance and self-expression and all of those things.
It was worth starving myself.
It was, and working out. But, it reminds me of a book I read some years back, and it's a great book for those of you that are listening. It's called The Science of Self-Discipline. I think it's by Peter Hollins, I believe is his name. But he addresses this whole point that there is a difference between motivation and self-discipline. Self-discipline does come from having a higher motivation, like you said, with your dance, but motivation in and of itself is temporary. Where if we instill healthy habits, like Renee Israel spoke about, now it becomes a habit. It becomes self-discipline, even when the motivation's gone. I no longer have to I no longer can wear that tutu, or I reach that particular weight goal or financial goal or whatever. Now the motivation is gone. What keeps us continuing on good discipline?
It is. And I think you move the bar too. Like if you've reached those goals, you have to find new goals. Laura Spalding talked very specifically about that, because she's gone beyond what she expected to go with her business, with Spalding Decon. And so, one of my favorite quotes from her is, I want to make 100 people a millionaire through my business. So she's elevated her goal in order to continue having that discipline and that motivation and that kind of thing. So I think it's so dynamic. It would be so nice if everything just stayed the same, because you could get it down. And then when it doesn't, now we're talking about adaptability. They're also intertwined. It's like you can't talk about one without talking about the others.
Exactly. And that's why this grit thing is so elusive, and why some of us have components of it and some of us don't have other components of it, because it all sort of works together. The drive, the motivation, the purpose, the passion, the adaptability, the optimism. And in this case, we're talking about the tenacity, the commitment, and the self-discipline that goes along with it. But in most cases, self-discipline equals, or at least that's how we think of it, equals being uncomfortable because the reward is greater. And this is something that in our society is getting tougher and tougher. We're used to instant gratification, right? But most things that are worth having require a certain amount of delayed gratification. Peter Hollins says, being able to sit in the wet socks. In other words, okay, I'm hot and sweaty, but it's worth it to be in this hot place, because ultimately I'm going to get to a particular outcome. One of the things that I've learned to do, I don't do it always, but I need to do it more, is when I'm tempted for something, whatever it is, to take a shortcut or not finish that project, or have some sugar or whatever it is, I'll ask myself, am I disciplined or not? And that sounds like a silly little question, but it's kind of like this, oh shoot, I'm disciplined. And this does not express discipline if I, break my commitment here. So I tell myself every day, I am disciplined. I am disciplined. And then if I'm tempted, the question comes up is, am I being disciplined or not? And if the answer is not, then I'm being incongruent, inconsistent with the way I envision myself.
Yeah. I think that's a huge skill, asking yourself a question. Because whenever especially with the tutu, when I would want something to eat, because I didn't eat carbs from January to May, and I would run. I mean, it was ridiculous. But I would go into the kitchen sometimes and I would stop and say, am I actually hungry? Or am I bored or tired or stressed? And almost never was I actually hungry. I was usually bored or tired or stressed. Sometimes when the boys were younger, I would just eat something for energy to get through the last hour of the day, but I didn't actually need it. I wasn't hungry. So I think that self-accountability, asking yourself, am I disciplined? Am I hungry? Am I whatever, and usually you can be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I'm not following my disciplined routine, or I'm not actually hungry. Why am I in here? What am I doing? And then you can stop yourself.
And and there's nothing more powerful than being with integrity with yourself, where you make a commitment, you fulfill the commitment, right? Because you're only harming yourself when you break that commitment. So I think the idea of asking a question, am I hungry? Am I not hungry? Am I being disciplined? Am I not being disciplined? Is this getting me closer or further away from my goal, my objective, like Renee was talking about? Just stop and ask yourself a question. If the answer is, it's not getting me any closer to my goal, and I'm not being disciplined, I'm really just distracting myself and going after a shiny object, then we can be honest with ourselves and make it a conscious choice and say, okay, this isn't getting us where we want to go. And we become better at commitment.
I love it. Oh, so good.
We always solve the big problems, don't we?
We do so much.
But we do need to take a break now. And we'll come back next week with more Women in the Know.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. So if you have a question for us, send it to Ask Beck and Liz. That's ask at Beck and Liz. So, Elizabeth, today's question is in keeping with our conversation with Renee Israel and the Women in the Know segment. And it's about self-discipline. And the question is, where are we most and least disciplined?
Yeah, that's a hard question, because then you have to admit something. So I'm going to let you go first. You tell me your most and least.
I knew you were going to do that. I just knew you were going to do that. So I'm a very disciplined person. I am very driven. And I'm definitely someone that says, here's where we're going and here's the process of getting there. And I will put in whatever effort is necessary to get to a particular outcome if it's business related. If it's business related, I'm a bulldog. I'm extremely tenacious and self-disciplined. I'll lose sleep. I will jump over hoops. I'll do whatever is necessary to be disciplined. So I'd say I'm most disciplined around the area of business. There's no doubt. If I have a project, it's going to get done. If I made a promise, you can see to it that it's going to be fulfilled. But when it comes to self-discipline, and this is me kind of being vulnerable there. Those of you that know me well know the secret about me, and those of you that don't know will now know my secret. I spent about 7 years addicted to sugar. And I'm not just saying I like a piece of chocolate cake or an ice cream. I am telling you, I was addicted to sugar. I could not have it. And now keep in mind that I have a background in holistic medicine, taught at a naturopathic school for 12 years. I knew all the right things. I also knew what sugar was doing to my body, not just making me more and more chubby, but it was affecting my immune system and my thinking processes and everything. And it was an embarrassing thing to have zero self-discipline when it came to controlling my sugar consumption. I was a closeted sugar eater, and that all changed last year. I was around my best friend's birthday, August of last year, and she has known about my battle because I spent many days in talking to her about it. And all of a sudden on her birthday, I said, Sue, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. And I have not had 1 drop of sugar in my body since August.
Wow.
So I know what
almost a year.
It's been almost a year. We'll be celebrating a year the end of August. And it's changed my life, not from just a health perspective, but from a self-esteem perspective. There's nothing worse than saying, I want this outcome, whatever the outcome is, and then self-sabotaging and preventing yourself from doing it by not having that self-discipline. So my self-esteem has skyrocketed by just mastering the self-discipline around one thing. In this case, it was sugar. That's mine, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, I rambled on and didn't even give you a chance to say one word.
No, well, I think it's a nice thing to share, because I think we all have these things that we don't talk about in terms of that. Nobody wants to admit that kind of a flaw, and it is a huge achievement, and sugar, they say, is the devil for your health. It is. So many negative health things. So you're probably feeling so much better. So I'm proud of you. That's exciting. I think that's great.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope hopefully this inspires someone else. But tell me about yours, Elizabeth. What's your area of most discipline versus least discipline?
Well, I think in the last few years, particularly, I have become most disciplined at not compromising what I believe in. I think I've always been fairly disciplined at that, but I think I've become more willing to say it out loud. And I think that has been beneficial in some ways, and in some ways it's cost me some things. It's cost me some friendships, and I've talked about having to switch churches and that kind of thing, but I'm not willing to sacrifice what I believe in or who I believe in. Period. And I think that translates into business and into my personal life. In terms of least disciplined, it's kind of funny because I think it's changed. Like we were talking about in the Women in the Know segment, I, danced for 30 years and I didn't eat carbs from January to May, and I ran like a maniac so that I could fit into this little tutu. And when that was over, that motivation was gone. So since then, I've been up and down weight-wise. I've been up and down with working out. I played tennis for a long time. That was helpful, but with knee and ankle injuries, so I tend to come and go a lot. And we were on the Whole30 last year, which was no sugar, not a lot of carbs, not a lot of anything. And I felt so great. And it's kind of frustrating to feel like this might be my most least disciplined area right now, because it was always my most disciplined, to the point where I was so hyper conscious of it. This is a dancer thing. I never got to the point of an eating disorder, but I was very close. I was watching an episode of Oprah, and they listed all of the qualities. Like, if you do these 10 things, you might have an eating disorder. And I had almost all of them. And so I recognized it in that moment. I stopped. Like, I would eat, and then I would go work out in my room to burn those calories off. Like, I knew exactly how many calories I ate every day. I know exactly how much I'd worked out so that I could, have a net zero for the day. It was not a healthy place to live. So I've kind of gone to the other extreme, and I've grown up with dancers who have said, the minute I quit dancing, I'm just going to get fat. I'm so sick of worrying about it. I'm so sick of exercising and eating nothing. And, neither of those extremes is good. So I'm having a hard time finding a good, nice, steady balance. And then, like, today, my sister and I were going to walk, and like, I don't think I can because my knee is the size of a watermelon. So I walked around the pool so that I didn't get too far away and I couldn't get back home. But anyway, I think that's where I'm struggling the most right now, is just that consistency. Like, I'll go in a spurt and do great for 3 weeks, and then I'll stink it up. So, and that's just a foreign concept to me.
Yeah, but to your point, and this goes back to our grit conversation, when you go extreme in one skill, in this case, self-discipline and commitment, and you don't have adaptability on top of it, we can almost become OCD or dangerously overdone in that particular muscle. So when you gave up dancing, it gave you an opportunity to learn some other things to be more adaptable, but still self-disciplined, but not this craziness, where it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's life is a constant give and take, right?
It is.
And so much of it is mental, It's mental, the whole sugar thing. I mean, you have a physical desire for sugar, but it's also a mental battle.
It's all of those things, as I have studied, and trust me, I looked at it all. But to that point, if you study neurologically self-discipline, there are a bunch of chemicals involved in the brain and its ability to be disciplined. I mean, it basically affects the prefrontal cortex, it affects the hypothalamus, it affects our dopamine and epinephrine and neuroepinephrine and cortisol levels. So to suggest one is a behavior and it has nothing to do with chemically what's going on is not true. There is a chemical. Our thoughts create chemical reactions, our food creates chemical reaction, and those in turn create behaviors, and vice versa. Our behaviors create certain chemical reactions, which has our brain think those terrible thoughts, self-doubt and self-confidence issues that Renee talked about earlier today. So it's that whole body-mind connection that ultimately creates certain behaviors, either healthy ones or not healthy ones. But we can change that, like you said, mindset. We can change that. Kind of the chicken or the egg kind of syndrome. By changing our behavior, we change our thoughts. By changing our thoughts, we change our behaviors.
Well, and the cortisol that comes up with stress. My sister was getting all worked up the other day. She's the one that I walk with, and we talk on the phone while we walk. And she said, "This cortisol is making me fat. I just decided I'm not going to think about that anymore because it's stressing me out. And this cortisol comes in, and then I can't lose weight." It's like that's one of the funnier things I've heard in a while.
Bless her heart.
I'm not going to have cortisol make me
stress
fat.
Over my stress.
Exactly. But it is that mind-body connection. Your stress, your cortisol. Yeah, it's hilarious. She cracks me up.
So there you got to de-stress to bring it down. Okay, what a great conversation. But we do need to wrap it up, Elizabeth. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck. and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.